So I'm about to have a conversation with a radio station. Dark Side of Paranormal, I believe it's called. I have not done this before, or at least I haven't recorded this before and put it on my channel. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. Astral projection, I guess they reached out to me because I've got experiences in my childhood. And without giving away too much, I'm gonna give it a go, have a chat, see what happens there.
ATM Richard Productions, Dennis speaking.
Hi, this is Ryan JC speaking.
Oh, okay, so let me patch you in. I'm waiting for you, sir.
Two, one.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode. Whoa. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Darker Side of Paranormal. Actually, I haven't done a show in a while. I'm really excited for this guest tonight. We got Ryan Cropper. He's from London, UK, and he's got some amazing stories of his spiritual experiences growing up. And he's got a nice YouTube presence going on that's growing and really amazing stuff. Ryan, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Sean. Thanks for...
How are you doing?
I'm doing very, very good. And
What?
thanks for inviting me here. This is a cool opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that's why I started doing the radio show. It's comparing stories, and we all learn something from each other. And as we all know, as people who are spiritual, we can learn something new every single day. It's just endlessly going on and on with the type of things that we can experience. So go ahead, tell us how this all began for you.
Yeah, well, basically when I was a child, ever since I was like really small, I could see things. Like every now and then I would see somebody in the house that didn't belong in the house. They shouldn't be there. And I remember this one time we were watching The Mask with Jim Carrey in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my twin brother, we were staring at the screen, but we wasn't staring at the screen. We were staring in front of the screen. So our parents thought we were staring at the screen. But really what we were staring at was the person in front of the screen, which just shouldn't be there, And my parents were saying, okay, what was you looking at? Because it was obvious after they hit pause on the screen that we wasn't looking at the video because our eyes were still moving around. And I said, couldn't you see him? He's standing right there. And from then, they realized that there was something up with me and my brother, my twin. And from there, we just kept constantly telling our parents that there was something up. Also, during this phase of my younger childhood where this paranormal activity, I guess you can say, really did increase, there was moments where we would see things running up and down our stairs, like children, even animals like dogs. Mm-hmm. They'd run around in the hallways and then run through the doors, which was pretty cool. And to us, we didn't realize that it was from another place. We didn't realize that these things weren't, like, I guess you can say human. We didn't realize they were ghosts. Mm-hmm. We didn't have that kind of mindset that things that died can be seen and were called ghosts. We just thought they were normal people, right? It wasn't until we got to the point where we got our hands onto some videos at our nan's house that when we start watching these horror movies, that's when we realized that, okay, these things that we're seeing look similar to what we see on TV. Okay, and that gave us a reason to be scared of it, because every time you see a horror movie, it freaks you out after a while. You put two and two together. You see a ghost, they're obviously there to harm you, right? They're there to haunt you. They have ill intentions. But that's only what the video said. And it wasn't until I ignored that when I started doing my astral projection, started speaking with these entities, that I found out it was a whole other story. It was a lot easier to cope knowing that what you see in the astral realms aren't always what you see on TV. And there was a moment where I turned 13, where my abilities turned off for a while. You know, my abilities to go in and out of the astral plane and astral project, they turned off. And they didn't turn back on until I was 16, where me and some friends was at a local quarry. And we used to do this, we used to play this game where they would throw a can out into the quarry, which is basically a giant lake. And they would throw the can out and you have to swim over to the other end to go get it. Now, I wasn't very good at swimming and I couldn't float like at all. It just wasn't happening. But it didn't stop me from trying, which was an issue. Because there was this part of the quarry which was like the whole quarry was like a shoe shape. And in the center of the shoe, you know where it's thinner? That's where you threw the can. So I thought, okay, there's less distance to cover, so I might be able to actually do it properly without drowning or without being out of breath. The thing is that they were obviously in front of me because they were stronger swimmers. So they got over to the other side, no problem. Okay, I was behind, so it took me a while to catch up. And by the time I caught up, they had already rested and they swam back the other way. So not only that, but because it's shaped like a horseshoe, or the normal shoe, when they got around the corner, they couldn't see me anymore. So once I caught up to them and they swam straight back because they got their breath back, they disappeared out of sight and they couldn't see me anymore. And that's when I basically drowned, like full on. I didn't drown like I can't swim, hands thrashing. No, I full on drowned and I died, you know? And it's weird because people say when you die, like your five senses turn off. And that is exactly what happened. Okay, because it's really chalky water. We wasn't supposed to be swimming at this quarry. And I remember the first thing to go was my sense of taste. Sense of taste, and then my sense of feeling. I couldn't feel my body, my limbs, which was a surprise because it's really painful when you drowned. It's like all of your organs and everything and your muscles, they're starved of oxygen. So you start twisting and bending in random shape. Like it's like you're having a fit or a seizure. And the pain disappeared after I couldn't taste anything. And then my sense of smell just completely vanished. Along with my sight, I then blacked out as I was sinking to the bottom of the quarry. After I blacked out, that is when my hearing disappeared. I hit the bottom and I heard myself hitting the bottom and I can hear other people in the quarry jumping around, right? It's like my consciousness just merged with the water and I could feel like every minute drop that landed in the water. I could feel it all. And then after that turned off, I found myself blacking out, but I didn't lose awareness, period. I didn't lose awareness at all. I ended up in a space. It was like I was in a room with no walls. It was completely black. I had nothing to me. I couldn't see my arms. I looked down and there was nothing there. And around me was images. They were like videos, like projections, 360 degrees all around me. And what was being shown was memories, not my entire life, but it was important parts of my life that made me who I was, that made me speak a certain way, carry myself a certain way, which gave me certain outlooks and perspectives on life. And after seeing those outlooks and stuff like that, there was a point where it felt fine. Like I knew where I was. I knew I was dead, you know, and the pain had passed and I had a choice to leave or stay. You know, and before the images came up, I chose to leave. Like I'm 100% sure that I was going to leave. You know, the pain had gone. I didn't have to worry about thinking about that again because when I'm alive, I often think, okay, if I'm going to die, it's going to be painful and all this. But I reached a point where that had passed and I knew that I didn't have to do it again. And then the images came up and the images, the videos, they gave me reasons to stay, you know? So after seeing these reasons, one of which was my dad. My dad was very, I guess, okay, he was abusive as a child, when I was a child. Very abusive guy. He had a problem drinking. And there were moments whenever I'd smile or whenever I'd be okay, he would literally throw me to the ground and say that I was worthless, I couldn't achieve anything, I couldn't do anything. Very downgrading type of abuse, verbal abuse, which for a child can be crippling, depending on how that child looks at it. But every
Right.
time he did that, it's like he set a match in my chest. Like, it really did started something inside me, which I knew everything he was saying was false, and
Right.
that kept coming up over and over again. Also, I wanted to see certain people that I had not quite settled with before I drowned. I had arguments and conversations with people that I wanted to fix. And those images came up. And this happened really quickly, really fast. And then after all of that had passed, I made the decision to stay. And when you're trying to make yourself wake up in the morning, like you're really trying to get up out of bed because you got work or something?
Mm-hmm.
It was like that.
Yeah.
And that is literally how I describe waking myself up or becoming more conscious again within my body. And that's when I opened my eyes and I found myself laying on the bottom of the quarry. After which, swimming, which felt like it took forever, to the top of the quarry, I broke water. And there are these mini cliffs because we had to jump off the cliffs in order to get into the water first. But then, as I climbed up to the cliff, I threw up everywhere, which was contaminated water because we were not supposed to be swimming in this quarry. But when you're 16, you get bored and there's nothing to do. And everyone looked at me and asked where I was gone. I had no idea how long I was gone for. My perception of time just disappeared. Everyone said I was gone for quite a while, and I collapsed. Most of them were really scared. My best friend that was there at the time was terrified. He was debating whether or not to call an ambulance. And then from there,
Right, of course.
a week later is when I had my first astral projection experience. And this is when I started looking into it a week after I drowned. And that's when I started getting floods of memories from when I was a child. And I used to astral project, but I didn't know it was called astral projection back then. I used to do it so often, right? I used to astral project so often. I used to just lay down, close my eyes and think, I didn't get any sleep. Get up and think I was still in 3D. And because I still thought I was in the 3D realm, I didn't even know I was in the astral realm. Anything in 3D or anything in the astral realms, to me, was 100% real. And it was in 3D. There was no separation between the dimensions, period. That's how often I did it. And I got all of the memories back. I remembered my mindset, my consciousness, the way I used to think in order to get there. And then I started going on like this mission, this hell-bent mission to deliberately trigger a pattern of thinking within my mind in order to astral project on purpose. And that's when I built my 4-step system on how to astral project. And I started teaching it to my friends first. 2 of my closest friends I taught before I taught anyone how to do it on YouTube. And then once it became a success with my friend, that's when I posted the video online. I think it was about a year ago now, coming up to a bit more than a year ago. And ever since then, the progression, my technique has gotten more and more advanced to the point where I'm having to deliberately I have to teach people separately now within consultations to make sure that I can break it apart and they can properly understand it. And now I've got many people experiencing things which they never had believed in prior the sessions, which is just awesome. So that's pretty much
and it's something that, for me, it just happened by mistake. It just started to happen. I did like an audio thing like 8 or 9 years ago. I listened to an audio thing and they do like a step-by-step, for you to trigger it. And I actually felt the buzzing in the back of my neck, and it scared the crap out of me, and I never did it again. But then after doing so, I think just sporadically, as soon as I got into the paranormal, when you start becoming spiritually awakened and you're embracing spirituality to a whole new level, you start to, obviously experience more of these things, and it would just occasionally happen to me. And that's when I bought a book about astral projection and learning all about it. And I mean, there's a lot of people, think it's dangerous and things can possess you. I mean, what do you think about that?
No. If it was dangerous, I wouldn't be alive, in the sense that Nor would I be practicing it because I've been doing it. My body's 20. I've been around for 21 years, coming up to 22 years now. It's my birthday in a couple of weeks, and I've been doing it actively near enough every day. If it was dangerous, I wouldn't be around and I wouldn't be talking about it. You know, there are certain ways of
Right.
thinking that most people get themselves into, like thought forms, for example. It wasn't until I started watching my nan's videos on horror movies that's when the fear started to creep up on me. When I was a child doing it, I wasn't scared of it at all. You know, so a lot of people watch these horror movies over and over again, and they buy into a kind of like mindset that says that if they pop out and see that thing that they see on TV, that this will happen to them. That's more oftentimes never the case, ever.
Right, right. And in my opinion, I don't think anything can come into your body unless you give it some sort of invitation.
Mm.
And I mean, that's where I think, what I like to call spiritual rules of engagement. These things aren't allowed to do anything to you unless you let them do it to you. And, the dark entities feed off fear. And obviously, you had told me briefly before you had come in contact with, you were actually projecting, you actually saw a dark entity hovering over someone in bed or something like that, and it saw you, came up to you and tried to threaten you. And what was that actually happened to you before?
Yeah, there is a tale that parents tell their kids at night. The whisper spirit, most people know them as, or the boogeyman. When I was a child growing up, these entities would never touch me. Okay, they were the dark entities. And the only way to, I guess you'd say, graduate to allowing them into your presence is to acknowledge some sort of idea that they can do certain things to you. Like, if you hear about the boogeyman and you buy into it and you get scared of it, you've now opened yourself up to experiencing something in the astral realms that's like that. But they can never actually touch you. And when I was a child, I used to see this happen all the time. They like to stay under your bed, and they like to scratch on the bottom of your bed. They like to open your closets and just terrify you. They won't show themselves. They don't like being seen. And that's what annoyed this being, because I was in the astral realms and I saw what looked like a cloud at first, but then I started to make up the shoulders and then the head and the hood that was over him and its hands. Now in the astral realms, the color's very exaggerated. Okay, everything's very vibrant. This being was incredibly dark and he was absorbing a lot of light, like a black hole, right? And he was above this guy. He was above him, and the guy was terrified. He didn't know what was going on and he couldn't see what was in front of him. But he was like paralyzed, like he was in sleep paralysis. And the energy was coming off in waves of color, and was being absorbed by this being. And after I saw him and walked in on this, I guess you can call it a feeding, he saw me, got incredibly angry, and then he moved to the door frame incredibly quick. Like, the speed in which he moved was rapid. He then hit the sides of the door frame and shook the entire house, after which he charged at me. Right? And when he charged at me, he put his hands around my neck and threw me through a wall. Now we're taking off through this wall, and now it's like there's nothing behind us. There's no space. It's like we're outside. Okay? And I put my hands back over onto his throat. I think this guy's got his hands over my neck. I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to do the same thing back to show him that we have power, So I put my hands around his throat and I said, "This is my house. This is my astral domain. You do not have permission to be here." This terrified him because it's like it shrank him. He had no power, period. It's like I was just taking away all of his power, which gave him strength, or at least made him exist.
You're saying as soon as it came up to you, you stood your ground and you were confident with no fear and saying, "You're not allowed to be here," and this thing took a step back.
Yeah.
And I think what happened next, right? Something you saw this white glow that came all around your body.
The second occasion I met shadow beings of this nature that can absorb light, they were in my room. I astral projected, and there was 4 of them. One was sat on top of my wardrobe, right? And they asked me a bunch of questions. They asked me where I was from. I said, "I'm Ryan, I'm from 3D. I astral project quite a lot. This isn't anything new to me." And then they started to bicker. They started to talk amongst themselves, whispering. Then one of them came at me, and he didn't come at me like to attack me or anything. He just went to put his hand on me. He was curious. He came up to me slowly and just touched me. When he touched me, I felt his energy. I felt his mindset. He didn't have good intentions. And when he touched me, my hand and my arm and my half my chest lit up white, like it was giving out a lot of light, and it burnt them like really fast. And then they all just spread and scattered through the walls and just vanished. And the entire feeling within the room just lifted completely. It was gone. And since that happened, nothing has been able to touch me, go near me, or go near anybody that I know of. So yeah,
Right.
it's like a
And
feel safe.
that's what I've read about too. I mean, like, you know, because there's always a lot of debate. People are scared of leaving their bodies, and my experience, it just happened to me by mistake. But when it comes to anything that can get you into trouble, it's your fear. And you know, and these things can sniff it out like it's, you know, a shark in the water, like it's blood. Yeah, it's just pretty crazy stuff. And like, I'm sure you've, you know, obviously experienced this all the time too. Like when I'm actually realizing I'm out of my body, like everything looks like a bad documentary. It's kind of like this fuzzy, like visual. Did you get, is that the same for you?
That's what I used to get at the beginning. And then after an extensive period of time of practicing, everything's become like 4K, a lot more. It's just more clear than this place is. It's more realistic. It's more, everything is exaggerated fully, a lot more than here. The thing is with shadow beings, I don't think that they actually hate people, or I don't even think they want to do harm. Because there was a moment where I projected, and before I projected, I was doing loads of meditations and gathering loads of energy. And I always use this analogy. When I was a child, I used to clean up loads, in art class, I used to clean up all the paint. And I'd put all the paint on one palette, and I'd move my hands all over it and watch all the colours turn into black. You know, you're moving all of the colour, and it makes one dominant colour, which is black. So whenever I was out, this only happened to me once, I was out astral projecting, and I looked at my hand, and it absorbed all of the light around it and turned me black, like full on pitch black. I was in a dark room and I could see the outline of my hand. So it wouldn't surprise me if these shadow beings, they're just trying to survive. It's like they're just using what they know to get energy to survive. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're not doing this on purpose. Like if it's more of a need than fun when it comes to shadow beings.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, I guess it's just like a speculative thing. You really just don't know what their true intentions are. But I mean, obviously, them hovering over some poor person, trying to suck their like aura and their good energy.
Yeah.
There's
good people in the world and there's bad people in the world, right? So there's obviously that doesn't change when you go into the astral realms. There's good people in the astral realms that help you and protect you, like spirit guides and stuff like that. And then there's bad people in the astral realms, which often go to one place, but every now and then you do encounter some of them, and it's good to be protected, or it's good to have your guard up.
Right. Now, I remember reading the book about astral projection, and this gentleman was talking about there's different planes. Yeah. So basically, like the low frequency plane would be where these darker things, these evil things would be, and then like the step above that would be the normal astral world, and then above that would be higher level frequency, positive light beings as you get further and further up. Mm-hmm. Have you experienced anything like that before?
Yeah. Yeah, I've experienced loads of things. Wow. I mean, the way they move, these light beings, it's nothing like you see in 3D, like you see a normal person move. Nothing like that. It's like they're dancing. They move so effortlessly. And the colors, they're just... And the information you get shown when you're in these higher realms. First off, it's harder for you to manipulate the higher realms. In the astral realms, like the lower ones, you can move things with your mind, and you often learn telekinesis pretty quick. You know, thought exchange through energy manipulation. But in the higher realms, it gets harder to manipulate things, mainly because there's more competition. There's other beings there that can also do it with higher frequency than you. And then you get locations and spaces which can't exist over here. It's a whole another... I'm having trouble putting it into words because it's like you need to experience it. You can't even... I don't even think there are words to describe what it's like. Heaven comes close. You know, a lot of people say that heaven is in the higher realms. There are a lot of different types of higher realms, and a lot of other people are suited towards certain types of so-called heavens. Okay, there are places in the astral realm where you pass on, where you like have a life review. You see all of the things you've done, and after you've looked at it the proper way, as to how you used to look at it, the wrong way, which got you in a situation where you're reviewing it in the first place, that's when you go to the higher planes of existence. And that's what some people could call heaven, yeah.
So you've actually seen spirits getting their life review done, or?
Yeah, I have. A few times. And most of the time, some people, they don't even know they're dead. You know, most of the time. And I have to guide them through the process, and then they either vanish or I show them. It's like, I don't want to sound cliche and say it's like a door. It's more like a hallway. Like, the end of my room, there is no hallway. There is no door. It's just a window and a radiator. But the guy that was next to my sink, I popped up my body and I saw him, and it was obvious he had died. I told him he had passed on. And it's like he began to wake up. The confusion was it just disappeared. And then we took a step to my left, and where the window and the radiator normally is was a hallway. And down the hallway was a bunch of doors. And then there was a light at the end of the hallway. And it wasn't my path to walk. I just basically guided him to that opening, and then he left. There is also a second case where a close friend of mine, he passed away. I made a video on this on my YouTube channel. I was debating whether or not I should do it, obviously, because a bunch of my friends, we're all good friends with him, but I thought I need to get the conversation out there. I need to get the video out there about my experiences with him. You know, I couldn't keep it a secret anymore. Seeing as I'm telling everyone about this astral projection, how to do it and everything, I might as well just do it properly. You know, what is possible. So that happened about 3 times I astral projected, saw him. The first time I astral projected and saw him, I saw him on his life review. He was in his back garden, watching himself. He was in third person, watching himself have an argument with his mum, which was cool to see. But he saw me and got incredibly angry, you know, and kind of pushed me out. He had obviously been there for a longer duration of time. He had passed on, so he's got all of his energy there. He was a lot stronger than me at that point. You know, so he overwhelmed me with his emotion and pushed me out of the astral projection experience. I ended up waking up on my floor in another astral realm. But yeah, life reviews do happen.
Wow.
There are ways to fix them in the present moment now. If you're brave enough, if you're honest enough to just look at your life and be honest, you know, did you mess up? And then try to look at it differently. Try to fix it as much as you can now before you astral project. Or no, before you die. Because then you can go straight to the higher realms or get closest to source as you possibly can without having this delay, you know, which can be very terrifying to see yourself cause so much damage.
Yeah, which is probably what what I believe is a recipe of like ghosts. I mean, do you think that some of these spirits, they go and get a life review and they're scared to cross over to the next plane because they weren't a good person, so they end up lingering and being a ghost?
Yeah, that happens. You just hit the nail on the head. That is exactly what happens most of the time. And that's when you'll see ghosts that are in their garments. They're in their clothes from like the 19th or the 18th century. You know, they're very old-fashioned and their mindset hasn't changed neither. You know, most people when they astral project, you can see that they're waking up. The way they look at things are different. But these ones that linger, that don't look at their past or don't fix anything, they tend to go kind of insane. They go a little bit nuts. You know, and they become really weak as well, by the way.
Right.
Very weak. A lot of people are scared of ghosts. If you astral project now, if anyone astral projected right now and bumped into a ghost, you could literally just like flick it and it'll turn to dust. They're incredibly weak. They're not as powerful as most people think. It's only till you're scared that's when they can use your energy to like power up, like a power boost. You know?
Right. Well, there's only certain spirits you think that can actually move physical objects, and do you think that's something else, or do you think it's
feeding.
You know, some ghosts actually get the power to do it because it obviously takes a lot of energy for them.
Yeah.
Some ghosts to be able to do that.
It takes a lot of energy. They can do it through divination systems. You can get occultists who practice worshipping these beings, which just give them energy,
right.
Just charge them up. Or you can have somebody like a whisper spirit that just torments somebody and over time builds enough energy to become active enough to push something in the room, write messages on windows, torment with somebody's head, like really screw up their way of living if they don't know what's going on.
Now, I think you actually, when we first talked, you discussed something that you actually saw, like, above Earth, and you saw the silver cords, like, all around the planet, right? Of all these people that were astral projecting.
A lot of people astral project, and people who aren't doing it, I feel sorry for them, because when you astral project and you can fly, wow. I mean, when I astral projected, I didn't think this was by far the most best astral projection experience I had, in the sense that it was most realistic, because I got so much information out of it. I understood it a lot more. I started putting things together. You know, I popped out my body, came down the stairs, and I was out in front of my garden. All I do is jump. I just jump up a little bit, and I noticed my sneakers came off the ground. And as I looked up, it was like the space, the distance between me and the atmosphere, that brink above the earth, where oxygen just disappears and you start to hit gravity. The space between there just disappeared. Like, it just shrank, and I was just shot up out into space, and I lost gravity. I lost my sense of direction, and I called that video on my channel "Flipping Out of Orbit." And then as I was flipping out of orbit, I could see the sun over and over again as I was doing these flips. And then as I started to slow down, I started to see silver cords, light cords, what people call them, which is basically the cord from your belly button that attaches to your astral body. And I saw a lot of them. And they were going out into the far distance of space. They were going out to other planets. And I knew they were going out to other planets because when you see out in space, when you're out in your astral body, everything becomes closer. It's like you're looking through a lens, only there's no outline to the lens. You know, so that the space becomes like warped so that you can see where you're going. It's a lot easier than a normal average 3D map. And I could see these cords going out to these different planets. And I straight away, I even made a raw experience where I wake up straight after and I record myself talking about these very raw experiences that just happened moments ago, and I posted that onto my channel as well, which was cool. But have you experienced anything like that?
What?
Have you experienced anything like that? Because you say you've astral projected.
I've had a few that, you know, it's like I never really try to do it, but it just happens. But since I know if it's happening to me, I try to get the best out of it. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm out of my body. So then immediately, like, I remember telling my friends, you know, if I ever leave my body, write a piece of paper, like a word on a piece of paper in his room, and see if I could read it, and just leave it in your room, just some weird obscure word. And all of a sudden, one night I went to sleep, and all of a sudden, boom, I was out of my body, and like I immediately just thought go to my friend's house. So there I was in my friend's room, and he's sleeping, and I'm looking for the piece of paper, and I saw the piece of paper, but I couldn't read it. It was like blurry, which I actually later found out that it's hard to read things at first, and you're supposed to like yell out, "I can see all with clarity," and it's supposed to like help you out or something like that. But it was funny. I actually saw my friend talking in his sleep, and I was sitting there in my astral body, like laughing at him. and then I woke up, and it's funny that I ended up finding out that he's known for talking in his sleep. And I just thought that was pretty interesting too. And another time was probably the most crazy thing was I bounced out of my body, and immediately I flew through my roof. I flew down the street, and it's just like you said, it's so vivid as if it's part of your normal day, as if it just happened to you today. And all of a sudden I went up into the sky, and as soon as I went up into the sky, I was coming down, and all of a sudden I was in this other place. And there were people walking around like it was just like a normal place, and I was escorted into a building, and they sat me down. There's a guy behind the desk, and he's like, I was talking to you about astral projection. I never looked to my right, but I knew a gentleman was wearing army clothes, and I knew it was my grandfather, and then I woke up. Then another time was really amazing. What happened to me was my arms were flailing out of my body while I was in bed, and I looked up at my right palm of my hand, and I saw this white fire glowing above my hand. I stared at it in complete utter awe for like 15 seconds. I woke up in the same exact place, except I was awake in my physical body. And it's funny because I actually passed out with the lights on, and my experience was with the lights on. But that was one of the most amazing things that I ever saw. I mean, I don't even know what that means. I don't know, but it's pretty unfathomable the things you could experience. You had actually said something about you went up to some door and then you tried to imagine going back in time or something. You grabbed onto the doorknob and then you opened up the door and it was like another time period.
Yeah, I tried to go back in time. What I ended up doing was going to other places, other dimensions. There was a period where I did go back in time though, and I also made a video on that, which was pretty cool. But the door thing, I wanted to find out how to get to another location incredibly easy. And I remembered seeing or hearing of a way where you can open a door and you just imagine that something on the other side is there and you're going to be there. So I thought, okay, well, this door that I was in front of had glass panels in the front, so you can see through the door. They were slightly patterned, so it's harder to see through. But I thought I'd give it a go anyway. So as I put my hands on the door handle, and as I was pulling towards me, it's like time slowed way down. And I could see that the image behind the glass started to change. So then I opened the doors that go into my living room just to step into a restaurant, you know? And at that moment in time, I did it quite a few times, actually. Found myself in all kinds of places. And then I closed the door behind me. So that's just one way of getting around, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The white flame that you said was above your hand, was it like plasma?
Mm-hmm.
Was it like plasma? Or was it like a proper
I mean, like, it was just like a glowing, it almost looked like a fire, but it was moving, it was like pulsating, like it was moving. It's just hard to explain. It was like a white fire almost. But yeah, it was kind of like plasma, fire, I don't know. But I was just in complete utter awe. And like, I woke up, I snapped out of it. I'm like, did I really just see that? Like, what does that mean? And I tried to look up online, and some people are saying that could mean that you're a healer. I really don't know. But it's definitely just,
That's just fascinating because it sounds like what happened to me in the sense that what was coming out of me, it sounds like that may be what's also coming out of you, which just gives the question, what are humans really? And should we really be afraid?
Right.
Because if we can scare these things that easily, then what's there to be scared of?
Well, it's really fear. It's really fear. That's what these things want. We only get hurt when we get scared, and these things feed off that. I mean, the demonic things, that's how they get their energy. And that's probably why you saw these things, that black dark entity over that person sucking their energy, because they're like cheerleaders for negative emotions. I mean, if there's a dark attachment onto a person and they're going around and following that person, they're trying to egg them on to get depressed, angry, sad, and ultimately try to have them hurt someone else or ultimately kill themselves, which is a complete mockery up to God, saying, look, humans can't deal with, life, so they'll give up. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they can hurt you. There's two things. If there's an invitation or if you fear them. Those are the two factors, I think, where you can get yourself into trouble, where they can harm you. To what extent depends on specific situation, and so forth. But, definitely like you said, I mean, it's kind of like cheesy to say, but it's like the same thing. It's like comparing like the movie Nightmare on Elm Street, like Freddy Krueger. He can't hurt you if you don't fear him. And then like I bring up about like Dracula, but it's like, all the Dracula movies, like, you have to invite me in. And then also the face, too, because, people say prayers and they try to protect themselves, from, like, evil spirits. But you can't just, yell out Jesus' name and say a prayer to, the Virgin Mary and stuff out into the air without having conviction and faith in what you're saying. Just like, like a vampire sitting there and saying, you got to have faith. You can't just throw a cross in their face and, hope to protect you. You got to have faith in your protection and be confident and not have, fear. So these things can get at you anyway.
That's what gave me the most power when I was getting over it, because there's a point in most people, if they're average and they watch all these movies and they get scared, and it's understandable in modern day society, but there was a point where I went through that, and what gave me the most power was knowing that I held their food. I could choose to feed it or I can starve it to death. The amount of power you get and just comfort in knowing that you control whether that person survives or not, that being that's trying to do you harm or trying to ruin your life, it just makes you feel so good. And instantly, my fear turned off. Instantly, it was automatic, you know? And ever since, I've been fine. And ever since, I've never seen, it's been a long time since I've seen a dark being or a so-called entity that's trying to do harm. A very long time. I mean,
Now, you actually said that you've been, I mean, when you realized you could astral project, you actually told me you were practicing for like hours a day, right?
Yeah. I'm addicted to my own consciousness, like full on. I'm addicted to studying my way of thinking throughout my entire life, not just now. I mean, even when I was doing these things, every experience I have got that way for a reason. I was thinking a certain way, and when I was astral projecting, I was thinking a certain way. So when I was 16 and I wanted to study myself, my younger self, what I did was I put my mindset back to my younger self, the way I used to think, so vividly that I could remember how I was thinking, what I was thinking of, and with that came the same mindset that I was in. So I deliberately started to trigger certain things that I started to notice, whether my door was slightly open, how bright it was in the room, how much sleep I had throughout the day, what influenced me into going into this state of consciousness, which allowed me to astral project. And it took me, I used to meditate on this, contemplate, think about this for hours on end, 4 to 5 hours. The longest I've done is 6 hours back then, okay? And eventually, as I started to piece or take bits of the puzzle and put them in the right place, it sped up to the point where now I can astral project the fastest time I've done it is in 3 minutes, and that was in the morning. You know, I just woke up from a dream, and I thought I might as well, rather than go back to sleep, I'm just going to astral project, and I astral projected on command. It took me around about 3 minutes. From scratch, like from now, it'll take me about 20 minutes to astral project. And those 4 years, the time it took me till I was 18 to really master my technique that I'm no longer using, but it was my last technique, the 4-step technique that I put on my channel. Those 4 years saves a lot of time in other people trying to learn how to astral project. Because I've gone through all the hard work. You know, now they can just pick up that technique and they can apply it and they can do it. I've had somebody who did it on their first try and astral projected. And they commented straight away under the video. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's great. It just blew my mind how quickly that person was able to achieve astral projection when it took me so long. But at the same time, I didn't mind because I picked up a bunch of other things when it came to me observing the way I used to think in the past, which was cool.
Yeah, you have like a quick 1, 2, 3, type of technique that people can try. You have on YouTube, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you type in astral projection, my video is literally the first video that shows up. Which is cool.
That's how I found it. What are those steps, you know?
Oh, the 4 steps.
What are the steps you actually do? You lay down in your bed, like you try to meditate and...
Yeah, the 4 steps. Let me see if I remember. It's been so long since I did it. Because now I don't have to do the steps. But it's lay down, get comfy. That's step 1. Second is imagine yourself walking around your room. Third would be to bring your awareness back to your physical body. And then make the intention to notice your body falling asleep. And you do that by remembering memories of when you notice yourself falling asleep. And then the 4th step would be to notice the vibrations that happen within your body. After the vibrations die down, you can just get up and you're out of your body. Literally.
Yeah, now the vibrations is actually, it's your chakra points. Because, I mean, it's the buzzing. I mean, it's kind of scary. Like, when it actually happened to me, it's like, you feel like you're going to die. It's like this feeling of falling, like when your body's about to come out of your body, and it's like an electrical feeling. I've actually felt like my entire body like had electrical feelings. It's quite scary, but, you know, once you're actually like away from your body and it just happens, it's just amazing. I mean, it's just a phenomenal...
Yeah, for everyone, if it's their first time, they're going to be scared. I mean, you're not ready for this kind of noise, you know?
Right, yeah. And that's when you'll end up right back in your body. Because when I bought the book like years ago, He said that there's kind of like an elasticity between the silver cord in your body, so you kind of have to get away from your body a good distance so it won't just snap you back in. And especially also if you get scared of something, you'll end up right back in your body as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You want to go home, you see something that scares you, you want to go straight to your bed, you want to go straight home. You just have to touch upon lightly that thought and you get slammed straight back into your body. No matter how far the distance is away from your body, you get scared, it's game over. Also, when you panic, when you get excited, throughout the entire progression, when it comes to the entire steps that you're doing, it's gonna ruin everything. The slightest excitement, the slightest adrenaline that gets pumped into your body is gonna ruin your body that's trying to fall asleep, you know? So the excitement and the fear of the unexpected, you've never experienced it before, you probably don't know what to expect if it's your first time, and that's when it gets scary. When you know what's gonna happen, you can say, okay, I heard somebody say this on YouTube, or I've heard Ryan talk about this on his channel. I know what's going to happen, I'm just going to ride it out. You know, because when I first did it, deliberately, it was 2 weeks after I drowned. And I started doing it on and off randomly, and it took me a while to do it constantly on my own, like success rate wise. I had to build up to that. But once I managed to do it, the sound was so loud, it scared me only because I thought I was going to go deaf. I used to think it was in my physical ears. You know, I didn't realize that it was inside my pineal gland, which was more than capable enough to stand the tones that I was hearing, or the voices that would constantly come in and out every now and then. And the second time I astral projected, because I understood it a bit more, that's when I was able to push past the tones and just allow it to happen, after which getting up and popping out of my body.
Right. Now, I got a question, too. We got about 15 minutes left. You know, there's a difference because with my psychic abilities, I'm still learning about, just for instance, today, God, I had some drinks last night and I'm extra tired. And I've also noticed that, like, I'm more susceptible to my spiritual abilities when I'm tired. And I think it's because you're not really sleeping well and you're kind of like walking around in that meditative state. Mm-hmm. So, but like just before, I was just, you know, laying down in my bed, kind of half dozing off. And there I am. I'm literally seeing places of just crazy, awesome places. Like I saw, like, just, you know, a body of water. I saw a person walking around. Like, it's the remote viewing. So the difference between the remote viewing and astral projection is that, I mean, you don't leave your body when you're remote viewed. You're actually getting some sort of clairvoyant view of some place that you're not. You had that probably, I'm sure, too, right?
Oh, yes. That's the new technique that I'm doing, which takes so long to get into. That, and that's what I teach my students as well. That is what happens. You remote view first, which is basically astral travel. It's just an aspect of your consciousness. Not astral projection, astral travel. An aspect of your consciousness that travels to certain locations. And you'll start to see these visions. You'll start to be in more than one location. That's what happens to me when I first start to approach the astral projection, the final stage. And then I find myself standing in one of the visions fully with my entire astral body. And I can deliberately go into the remote viewing stage. It's actually a lot easier to go into that stage than astral projection. And you can also pick up on languages. You know, you can hear other people talking in strange languages, ones that just don't exist on Earth. And you can go to the higher realms that way as well. It's like a shortcut when you remote view.
Yeah. Now, is there a way that you trigger that? I mean, do you just focus on seeing a place to make it happen, or does it just happen, or what do you do exactly with that?
What do I do exactly? That's a hard question to answer, because recently I've been practicing a third way to astral project, my way to do it, which is based upon my way of thinking, because I no longer think in a average way anymore since I've been doing it for so long. It's kind of like an energy thing that I do now. I can feel the energies from past experiences. It's like I have a library of emotion within my body that leads to certain actions that I can deliberately access, and then I just piece together the emotions, and then eventually my body, my consciousness just reacts and I end up projecting. So that is the only
way. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's really cool though, because it happens a lot faster.
I mean, I love it. Like, I know people like have debates about it, whether it's bad and this and that. I'm just like, you know, whatever happens to me, like, there's two, you know, your intent is the most important thing, and you don't want to harm anybody. I just believe that any spiritual experience that we can have in our physical life before we die is an unfathomable, humbling gift that God is allowing us to experience. Because when we die, the cat's out of the bag. It's not so special anymore. But to be able to retain the knowledge and the experience and bring back to your physical body, these amazing experiences, it's just truly amazing gift, if you ask me.
Definitely. It makes you look at life a heck of a lot more differently. You're more prepared. And it doesn't... Most people, they go through life and they're scared of dying. They're scared of the unknown. They're scared of what they don't know now. But if you can just get a hold on this now, and you can make it like a part of your daily routine, there is literally nothing to be scared of afterwards. Not even that. You learn that you're able to survive outside of your body. Your consciousness is able to stay intact, which makes you feel a lot older than you are, and you know that you cannot die because your astral body is literally like your first body. As long as if the physical body dies, that's fine, but you're never going to die, and it just gets rid of that fear of not knowing, of I'm going to die in my physical body and that's the end. It's going to be pitch black.
I agree with you 100%. I feel so terrible for, it's kind of funny. I have this friend that actually got me into the paranormal. I always watch the shows and stuff like this, but I actually call him my trigger into the paranormal because I tried to go to a graveyard to have him experience something, and because he's the biggest skeptic ever. And I ended up getting my first experience in that and riding that wave ever since. But he's still like a cynic and a skeptic, and I would just it's terrible to have to live your whole life thinking that you could die tomorrow and that's it. That's the end.
Yeah, I know. I had a teacher like that.
Knowing all that we know and living our life, you can just enjoy life so much more. It just changes your life. It's kind of like the Matrix. I always bring this up all the time. Like, you want the blue pill or the red pill? It's like once you take that pill, it's like there's no looking back now. Now it's like it changes the way you look at everything.
Oh, yes. Yes, buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy. Alice in Wonderland. Definitely. Once you astral project and you come back, you can't go back to the way you used to think about things. And it can change your personality. It can change the way you speak about things, topics you bring up in conversation. Your friends will change. Your family may think you're nuts at the beginning, but then eventually, after they've seen, like me, I've been talking about it within my family for about 4 years now. And it's taken them that long, after I've made this channel and I've done all this and I've started to speak about it publicly, it's taken them that long to come to terms with the fact that I'm telling the truth. Every night I come downstairs, I'm saying something new. No one who's lying can tell a lie for that long. It just doesn't work that way.
No. Absolutely not. And you also probably, I totally believe in reincarnation. Do you believe in reincarnation?
Oh, yes. I believe in reincarnation, past lives. I've had experiences within my life, which...
Were you able to tap into your past life while you were astral projecting?
I'm able to tap into quite a few things, so much so that I'm not willing to say what it is yet, because I don't want to jump the gun and say it's my past life when I could just be watching somebody else's life,
Yeah. I've had some interesting experiences and I've had spirits tell me, and synchronicities telling me I'm somebody reincarnated, someone famous that died. I'm like, that's just ridiculous. But
you should tell them to show you.
I think of what?
Tell them to show you, just to make sure they're telling the truth.
Right. Well, the thing is I would have EVPs. I've had weird synchronicities, just over and over again, brought connection to this person that has died, and I'm just like, that's weird. It's not like I believe it, but I sit there and think, why would they tell me it? There's no motivation to tell me that I'm that person reincarnated, because it doesn't change me. It's silly. It's mad.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're curious who it is.
Not unless you tapped into them. If they were telling the truth and you started getting a flood of memories, it's mostly people. I've
had visions of possibly with him. It's really bizarre, and there's a lot of connections. It's really. I'll tell you who it is. They keep telling me that I'm freaking Jim Morrison reincarnated. I'm just kidding me?
Really? But
yeah.
hey, if it is true, your personality will change with the memories.
Well, my first meeting experience was I was sitting at my computer and I kept hearing over and over in my head over and over again, Lizard King, Lizard King. So I'm like, what the hell? It was like a Friday of a weekend in July, like 3.5 years ago or something like that. And all of a sudden I decided to Wikipedia Jim Morrison. Now, I just read 3 books on demonology because I was starting to have experiences with demon stuff. And I read the first part of Wikipedia is that Jim Morrison was obsessed with demonology right before he met the Doors. I'm like, okay, that's weird. What does that mean? And then I saw he made his last will and testament pretty much on my birthday. I'm like, okay, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
And
I'll look into that.
it's just like this radio show that I started last year in December. And I didn't even realize, but people were posting on Facebook because it was my first day I did the radio show this Sunday, and it was Jim Morrison's birthday. And I'm just like, kidding? The little things like that constantly being shown. I've had whispered in my ears saying that you're him and stuff like that. And just like, and it's weird because I'm a singer, I'm a musician, and the reason why I started singing was Pearl Jam. And Eddie Vedder actually inducted the Doors into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and sang with the Doors. It's just a lot of weird things, but anything's possible. But it's just kind of a mad, crazy thing. I'm just like,
there's
I don't know.
synchronicities, right? Synchronistic moments. Reality is trying to show you that you could be onto something, and it wouldn't surprise me if you keep laughing at it, right? And like I can see why you're laughing at it. That's when more synchronicity starts showing up. Does that happen to you?
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, anything's possible. Reincarnation is possible. So
you never know.
And you just never know. But like I said, I don't know what the motivation would be to tell me that because it's just like a crazy thing.
Not unless before you forgot you were who it is you say you used to be, or maybe you made like a pact with some friends, like some astral beings, to try to get you to remember, because you knew that you're going to forget.
Yeah. Right.
Like, oh, by the way, I might laugh at this when I'm on there, but just make sure I get the message kind of thing,
Yeah, exactly. Well, all right, we got about 5 minutes left. Yeah, we covered a lot of bases, and you got some really amazing stuff. I think a lot of people can learn from you, and everyone's got to check out his YouTube channel. He's very informative and very clear. Because I know there's a lot of astral projection and outer body experiences when people, go on YouTube to try to research. And these people just sit there and they talk, and like you don't even know what the hell they're talking about. It just doesn't make sense. And that's what's good about Ryan's videos is that you'll go there and you'll actually understand what he's talking to. It's very direct, very clear, and I think people can relate to you a lot more because of that. And his presence is starting to grow on YouTube, and I think it's going to continue. You want to name all your websites, Ryan, and you just opened up a new Facebook link too, right?
Yeah, I opened up a new Facebook page, Your Potential, that you can check out. On there is also a link to my new website, which I've posted up today. It's in the progress of being built. At the moment, it looks pretty good. There's quite a lot of information on there about classes and astral projection. There are going to be some testimonials and some reviews on there to be posted. I'm still building into it, still building it, but it's more than enough on the website to let you know how to contact me. And on my YouTube, that's where you're going to find all the goodies, all of the videos, all my experience, most of my experiences, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much how to contact me either through YouTube.
Yeah, I'm looking forward, man. I think, like I said to you before, I think you should really consider getting a book done.
I have a friend.
Considering how well you are versed with all this, I think if you put a book down, I think people would really dig that. I think it would do really well.
Yeah. I have a friend. She
absolutely.
says she may edit them, and I'll have to pay her to do it, of course, because it's going to be a thick book. But I have a friend. She also mentioned the same thing. And she
you just call it the Astral Encyclopedia.
Astral. That'll take a while. How long do people take to write out a book? I've never done it before.
Well, a book is an average. I think it's got to be like 300 pages. I'm actually started writing my book about my paranormal experiences and I've only gotten like something like 10 pages done, so I just keep at it.
That's exciting.
You just take notes and stuff.
Yeah, I may have to do that.
Do chapter by chapter, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
All right, man. Well, it's been great talking to you. I'm really glad you came on the show, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next and your amazing stories. Definitely need to check all that out.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sean, and I'll
Absolutely,
get
man.
back to you pretty soon, right?
Yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely keep in touch. Talk about astral projection experiences and whatnot. All right,
Absolutely. Definitely, man.
definitely.
Thanks, everybody, for listening, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks with another guest. This is The Dark Side of the Paranormal, and my name is Sean Austin, and this was Ryan Cropper as our guest. Everyone have a great night.
All right.
Good night, Ryan.
See ya.